Hey people, I got y'all a new revelation, and I'm gonna read these first two lines in this Revelations 4, the throne in heaven, and I'm gonna show you which door was being opened, and the first voice heard, and I'm gonna show you who is situated on the throne, the one sitting on the throne in heaven. And I run on to this, chasing this word I talked about in that last movie, euthos. And I'm going to get into more about what that exactly means, the different meanings of it. But I was told long ago by somebody trying to save me that first you have to read Revelations. Read Revelations first. It's supposed to be the first book of the Bible. And then go back and read the New Testament. They stayed away from the Old Testament. And I knew this was good information if you could read this Greek, because I figured out long ago that the language was changed. You know, you got you got millions of idiots around the world, and they're trying to give you prophecy off of this King James Revelation, and they don't have a clue. But I knew that in order to figure this language out, I knew I'd have to start with the ancient picture language, and then use that to figure out the Hebrew in the Old Testament, and then compare the Hebrew with the Greek in order to figure out how to read it, in the Old Testament, and then I would be able to read this New Testament. And I got a pretty good position here. And so I'm going to cut my face out of this, because all it does is jam my computer up. So the most ancient writings were in Bustrafedon. And they're pronounced as Bustrafedon, but it's the Bustero. And it comes from the way you would plow a field. You pull your bottom plow. If you're busting row, when you hook up a bottom plow to turn, and you run this way, and then you turn around and you run this way. And so they wrote like this, and it's a more genius way of writing, because you don't lose your place when you get to the end of a line. If you had to come back over here, sometimes you would lose your place on long writing, but this way you just turn around and read back the other way, and it makes it easier. And that was the most difficult part when I started this, was training my brain to read backwards. And now it kind of stumps me when it goes in the other direction. I've been reading this Hebrew for so long, and it looks like this. This is an example of Bustrafedon. The text was written specifically for the Wikipedia article on this ox turning method of covering a wall with text in ancient Greece and elsewhere. And so while the people were writing like this, they caught things that you won't catch today if you're reading always in the same direction. That's why the people were so much smarter, and they could find words that were written in both directions. And sometimes, the smarter ones could find ways of wording things, and where it would read, the same line would read in both directions. And so they said things in many different ways, sometimes saying the same thing in order for it to read in both directions. But this also, gave me a clue of what this fed means. This fed. The Bustero, fed, as in feed on. The Bustero, feed on. And it's, QD, the code, the feds. And you'll see that in the Hebrew, they always give the fed as the holy ones, the feds. But it gives me a better idea of what the Bustero fed on. And so it gave people that wrote like this a bigger insight. And and causes your brain to expand. So when you read this Greek, it helps to understand how the Greeks had pictured their gods, with serpents and crowns and people with wings. And so it helps to look at their artwork. But in order to understand their artwork of a serpent biting God's dick at the Last Judgment, it helps to read the ancient Greek to understand what the pictures mean. And so, like I said before, there's a bunch of pictures that went with the ancient Hebrew too that are missing. So in this poor interpretation, it says, "After these things I saw, and behold, a door being opened in the heaven." And the first voice, they're telling you to read this first. The first voice which I heard was as a trumpet speaking with me, saying, "Ascend here, and I will show you what must take place after these." And immediately I existed in spirit, and behold, a throne was situated in the heaven, and upon the throne one sitting. And so I'm going to start with this end here so I don't lose y'all. But, and upon the throne one sitting is Anki, meaning two, or and, Vav, and the Python throne of Kath, Minos. And the Python throne of Kath, Minos. And so when you're old and fixing to die and you're laid up in your bed, back about 8,000 years ago, they used to give you a catheter. And so you didn't have to get out of bed. You could just pee in that python. And so this would be the catheter of Minos, the python's throne on Minos. But this word breaks down even more. The pi is the mouth, and ton is fashion, and then there on of catch me nose, the mouth fashion there on of catch me nose. And so Minos is the one that's speaking here. And so they had the same thing going on in Egypt. So men, also called menu, he always had a hard on. He was also the god of menu. But he had a different idea of the python, and it was the pi, the mouth to fashion thereon of to catch menu, to catch my nose. To catch. This is where your word catch comes from. K-A-T-C-H. To catch. And that's where your word catheter comes from. It was probably spelled K-A-T-C-H or K-A-T-H-I-T. To catch it where? W-R. K-A-T-H-I-T. To catch it. W-R. Where? To catch it where? So this first word after is meta, and it's not after, it's from within. Meditation is the thoughts from within. Metamorphosis is a morphosis from within, to change from within. Meta is from within. Meta, from within thought, to hide on. Not I saw, but to hide on. To hide on, to hand of Thor. From within the thought to hide on, to the hand of Thor. And it's where your word Torah come from, and Thor. And so in the hand of Thor is Thor's hammer. And in the other hand is a chisel. And that's how they made all these ancient writings, was with a hammer and chisel. From within thought to hide on to I do, Thor. And so I do is also a vow. Do you take this hand in marriage? I do. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth? I do. To a vow. And you see here in this story of his son, of Minos' son, Glycos, he talks about this guy Polyidus of the Argos, the Argonauts. And Polyidus means many vows. Maybe he was married many times. And so all these names of people have meanings to them. And you don't, that's where all the meaning in the stories, if you're not catching the meaning of the names, you're not getting the stories. From within the thought that hide on to the hand of Thor, a new game in knowing too. Neo is Greek for new. A new game in know. In Hebrew, Noah's name is just spelled NH. And it means to know, K-N-O-W. A new game in knowing to most of these words that start with a vowel in Greek, you can just add an H to it and read the same as we read today. The hour on end. The hour on, omega means the end. Alpha's beginning and omega's the end. And so the hour on end is the cycle, the end. The hour on no, your end. And then the key, is the vav, and it can be two and, or a W, U, or V. And here it's which, W-H. Which, phony, proth, P-R-O-T-H. And so it's phony, this is a poet's word, of proof, P-R-O-O-T-H. And it's proof and truth put together. Proof. The phony proof in accuser as. So the accuser, that's Satan. The one accusing you in the day as shall pigos. Pigos is ancient name for bankers. Your piggy bank is pig is that red clay, and they used to make pots to put their money in, and that's where your piggy bank come from. So the bankers were known as the pigos. This shall pigos of Lucius met them of Lego use on abode to dies end, to the day's end, to the die's end. And so of Lucius is a name of an ancient warrior, and he was elusive. That's where your word elusive comes from. That's why he's such a good warrior. And so the bankers of Lucius met them of EM, the E is them of the Lego. Lego is a building block to use. So them of the Lego use are the builders. The bankers of Lucius met with them of the builders on abode, on a house, abode, on a house to day's end, where you're going to spend your rest of your days in, or the rest of your death in, on your catacomb. This is where your word Lego come from. And you can see that they have tenons on all ancient structures. And in South America, they even had a tighter fitting Lego building blocks. And so the ancient letter Chet, it's our H, and it means wall. It means to divide, the wall. And that's what you do with Legos. You stack them up, they interlock, and they make a strong wall. The Legos. And so that's where this letter H comes from, and it was worldwide. It meant to divide. And so when you connect them, evolve, WH is which. It means to divide. If you have a big group and you want to select something out, is which one is where that word comes from, which. On abode to day's end. The house you live in on the day's end, your catacomb. And so while the lights are going dim and you're dealing with Satan, the accuser, and at this time as shall the pigos, the bankers of Eleusis met with the builders of the abode of day's end. The bankers, the money met with the builders to build your day's end abode. Today is so a day. Genus day. Meta thought, from within thought. So to the day is so. The day's end. So is into plant. OI is how things get done. And S is to consume, how. And so it's not just you, but more like you do, or you sow, you plant. To the day sow a day, plant a day. The genus day. And so this is two words, like dynasty. Dyna is the power to stay, and Jenna is like genocide. Jenna is the race to side, the genocide, the race to side, and so it's the race to stay. The day, today, so a day, race to stay from within thought. So if you line this up, it's poetry, and that's why it's all worded like that. I think it's here with this Torah and the accuser and the legosa and the taught. And the youth as agent of men in the wind, in the mighty, in the wind, to the hand of throne nose. Ekit too into Arano, to the python thereon of catch Minos. This euthos is there's a God in there, and there's a who, to who God, and that was youth. Everybody wants to be young again. Who those, to who those, Theos. And so there was an ancient writer, and his name was Theosu. And he would always sign his name the other way, who Theos. Who Theos. And so when people would read it, they would say, Theos who? And so he was, that's immediately. And when he write, everything he wrote, he killed you immediately. euthos. That's where your word euthanasia come from. And he killed you immediately when you start reading him. And so that this is the age, O men. And the age, it's the foot, the cycle. The foot of the head of the cycle, you come out head first. You begin head first. All the star system, everything comes up. It comes up to the head first. And so the foot is the bottom end of the cycle at your death. And to the euthos, the age, O men, in the wind, to the hand of throne as Ekit too. Ekit too, it too is the word for bitumen. And Eka is the substance that sticks a soul to a body. It's Ekit too, the substance that sticks your soul to the body. Into the hour on end, to the python thereon of catch Minos. And so he's slipping away, the lights are going dim and you slipping away, and you got this catheter catching all your piss. And a lot of the ancient poets, they wrote about death, the poetry of death, and to laugh about it, to take all the tears out of it. They tried to laugh about it, but they also hid a lot of information in the art and in their writing, and even your scholars, they can't read. They don't understand what they're reading today. And I see it all the time. Every time I look for something, I see that they're totally in a fantasy world with their interpretations. And they call it Minos, depicting as having a snake-like tail. And it's not a snake tail. It's a python, the mouth fashioned of fashion. So if you read up on Minos and then read on down here, you'll find several words that come from his stories. And there's one of them here that's just, there's no denying it. And it talks about his 7 spirits. And a sea of glasses, the lass of a line, the lass of a line. That's if you didn't have any children, you're the lass of a line. And you see here in all the numbers, it's lining up the heavens. It's talking about time, living creatures, each of them having wings of 6. And the 9 ages here are a big clue. And when you split it in 24, that's the hours around the globe. You see their word for powers, the dyna from in. The power from in. But when it talks here in 5, and the throne went forth the lightings. And the lightings are the astra pay to phony and bronte to 7 lampades. And you don't find this word anywhere. It might come up a couple times here, just in this New Testament, and it'll never be spelled the same. I think just 2 times they'll spell it like this in this book of Matthew. The lampades is a Roman name for nymph. The lampades, you see the spelling, Lampades, are the nymphs of the underworld in the Greek mythology. And so this isn't talking about the throne in heaven. It's talking about the underworld. And you can see in all the pictures, you read about his death, and he was the king, and he was sent to be the judge of the underworld. when he died. And if you look at this picture, you'll see there's 7 lampades with a light on the head. 4. This one's got a light. 5. This one's got a light. 6. You can barely see the circle over this one, but it's 7 lampades of the nymphs to light the underworld. The lampades of the fires. Pyros. And so this is a key here. You don't often see it spelled like this inside of the word, but this is the key. It's a W-O-M-E-N. The 7 lampades, the fire women. Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.